Hey, thanks for stopping by my channel. So in this video, we're going to be covering some very basic Linux privilege escalation and enumeration. This is actually from my complete ethical hacking course. This is just kind of an introductory. I was thinking about expanding the Linux privilege escalation and enumeration portion, as well as the Windows enumeration, file transfer, and privilege escalation. But before I went ahead and put in all that time and effort, I decided to release some small portions from that complete ethical hacking course to see if this is something that you guys are actually interested in, and add some more intermediate level enumeration and escalation on both Linux and Windows. So if this is something that you would be interested in seeing more of, please let me know down in the comments and I will get to working on those. Now let's jump into it. All right, we are here at Try Hack Me. I've decided to come here for the Linux privilege escalation because we can pretty much do everything in one place, and we can look at some of these scans and we can see just exactly how this is going to work. So we're going to walk through quite a few of these, but we'll go ahead and we're going to look at a couple of different tools. So the first one I want to show you is going to be LinPeas. So this is a brother to, or sister, however you want to look at it, to WinPeas. So we'll just Google LinPeas and it'll bring you to this page. It'll be the first one. So LinPeas right here on GitHub. It's the same as before. What you do is you're going to scroll down and you're going to go to the release page. You'll click on this. I just grabbed the first one, so just click on this. You can click download and it will save to your downloads, and then what you'll do is you can just move it from your downloads by typing in copy and then the location, which is going to be your home. So it'd look like this. If I wanted to copy it to my desktop, I would go copy home, the machine, the downloads, and then the file, which is LinPeas, and then I just put period to copy it to my current directory. Or if I wanted to copy it to a different location, I would put the full path in there as well. And so you'll go ahead and copy that to your tools folder, which I have already gone ahead and done. It is right here. And so you'll want that there. And then the other one we want is linenum, and we're going to look at linenum. I don't use this really that often, but I like to have it, and it's one I want to show because it's not going to highlight things for us, and it'll be easier for us to walk through what we're looking at without linPeas just giving us all of the answers. So we're going to go ahead and grab linenum as well. You'll go ahead and you'll just type in, I typed straight into the URL, but this is the URL where you're going to go. You'll just go ahead and type in linenum, and then you can type in this right here, and it'll pull you up this GitHub page. Click linenum.sh. You can right click it and go copy link location, or you can come in here and save things the way I do. I go into raw, I highlight it all with Command A, I copy with Command C, and then I gedit a page over here, and then I paste it in. And so that's how you're going to get those. And then we're going to go back over to Try Hack Me, and we're going to SSH into this box. I'll have already done that, and we will begin looking at some of the privilege escalation ways in Linux. So we are going to be talking about cron jobs. These are files that get executed every 1 minute, every 5 minutes, every day or week. I already went ahead and ran linenum and linPeas, and so here's the output for linenum, and we actually come up here. It actually starts up here, so it'll tell us what files are getting run daily and which ones are hourly and monthly. And then down here, it actually tells us like we have the ability to run this shell bin bash. Well, this isn't bash, this is bin sh, here through the home user path. And so this is in our path. We have the ability to write to it, and it'll tell us down here what each one of these stars mean. So you have minute, hour, day, month, or day of week. So we have this right here. These all stars means that it runs every minute, every hour, and so on and so forth. So both of these files here. So this one is going to be in a path, and this one is just a file. So we should be able to find the location of this file and then just overwrite it and be able to get a reverse shell through this because it's being run as root. And so when root runs a file and we put in a reverse shell, when root runs the file, we'll be able to set up a listener and root will reach out and we'll be able to get a reverse shell on another tab. So that is lin enum. We can come down to linps right here and we can actually see it lights it up for us. It says this path right here is vulnerable. These are being run as root and it's happening all the time. Every minute we have the opportunity to overwrite this file. So what we'll do is we'll see if we can find this file location. So we'll go locate and then we'll paste and we'll type enter and it tells us that the file is right here. So we should be able to just go to nano and then paste this in. And this is what is being run right here. So it says bin bash and then it's just echoing the date and then it's going into nowhere. So we can actually just come in here and we could leave that actually. I was gonna say we could delete it or we could leave it. And what we want to do is put a reverse shell in here. So I shared this with you earlier. This is a place to go, Pentest Monkey, and you can get reverse shells. We can just come in here because this is running a bash script or a bin sh script is a bash. Bin bash, you can come in here and you can paste in this bash script and we'll go ahead and use the famous port 4444. Got one too many there. And then we just put in our IP address. And I think mine is 10.242.96. And so that looks okay. Come over here, we will set up a netcat listener on port 4444. And we will go ahead and save this out. And when it is executed, we will get a reverse shell over here. So we'll go ahead and wait for this to reach back to us and I will restart the video. It shouldn't be more than a minute. Okay, and it has reached back out and we have our root shell. So what happens essentially one more time is the server is going through and it is running these jobs every week, every month, every hour, and these ones every minute. And so because this is being run every minute or every 5 minutes, if you ever are doing a capture the flag or a certification or really any box and you see every minute or 5 minutes, you can be thinking this is probably going to be your way in, especially if linps lights it up for you. So what happens is this is being run as root, and when root runs this file and it runs our reverse shell right here, we'll go ahead and open this back up. When it runs this, essentially what it's saying is root wants to reach out to this IP address on this port and offer up a shell, a bash shell. And so when this happens, we come over here and we have this shell come through, and it comes through as root because root executed our file. And with that, we'll see you in the next cron job video. All right, the next video is going to be covering the cron job wildcards, and these are ones that I see a whole lot less, but it is one that you should be aware of nonetheless. And one helpful tool that I forgot to mention to you guys, it'll be linked over in the course resources of this video, is right here, GTFO bins. So you can just delete this and save GTFO bins. It is a really helpful place to go, especially when you're trying to do privilege escalation. And in this specific one, it actually tells us that we can break out of a restricted environment by spawning an interactive shell. And so we saw from our linps and our lin enum that we have this file running right here. And so what we can do is actually come in here, we can copy this. I'd have a space there at the end. We can copy this and we can cat this out. so we can see what's going on. And this is where I come up with the tar so that we can go and check this out on GTF opens, and it will actually tell us what we need to run in order to get this to work. So what we're going to do is we are going to come back here, and we're going to need a reverse shell payload. So one of the things that I have showed you earlier is when we make these, we make them right here with MSF Venom. And so we can go ahead, and I'll go ahead and run that. So that way we have it. But what you need to know when you are making one of these, and where I got this is right here. We go into our Linux, and because this is a Linux box and we're making it a payload with MSF Venom, we need to just copy this, and then you change your port, you change your IP address, and then you set up the shell you want. But what's different here versus the web payloads is we actually need to have the right architecture. And if you saw, we're running an x64. If you try and run this as an x68, it is not going to work. And the way you find that is by typing in a uname-m. You type in uname-m, and it'll tell us this x86-64. And if you didn't know what this was, you could just copy this, paste it into Google, and it will tell you. But for our sake, we're going to be needing to run x64, not x86. So that's how we come up with the type of payload that we're going to be generating. And I went ahead and already pre-filled out everything so that we would have it. And now what we'll do is we need to transfer this over to our vulnerable server. So we'll come over here. We are in the home directory, and we're going to run a wget, and we're going to run it on my IP address, HTTP //10 to 42 and 96, and then we're going to slash, and we're going to call this shell.elf, and we will need to start up a server so that we can transfer this file, and we're going to do that with sudo python 2 -m simple HTTP server, and we're going to put that on port 80, and we're going to type in the password. And now we have this up and running. We're going to go ahead and get this. And it has grabbed it. And so what we'll need to do now is make this executable. And we need to do that with a chmod. And then we can go +x. And then we can just type in the payload right there. And now what we also are going to have to do is we're going to have to make a checkpoint for the server to know where to look in the path for this file. So we'll go touch, and then we're going to /home user, and then we'll go -- checkpoint equals 1. Make sure that looks right. It does. And then we'll go touch /home /user checkpoint, spelled that wrong, checkpoint /action equals, and this is to execute our file. And that looks okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to have to come back over here. We'll close out of that. We can set up the netcat listener that we had running earlier on port 444, because that's the port we set it up on. And now this should execute, and I'll bring you back whenever it has, it already has come back. And there is our shell. That is the cron job wildcard. It's a little confusing, but just watch this a few times, and then maybe we'll practice it later on in this course, and it won't be so confusing. And with that, I'll see you in the next lecture. All right, there is one way of privilege escalation that I want to show you guys that you will see in the future, one that you'll need to know, and that is through MySQL. So we actually have MySQL here. One thing to always check is your history. So when you come onto a box, you can type in history, and we actually see we have MySQL, some localhost, user, password, 123. So what you can do is type it in this way. So we just use mysql -root, and we are here in the MySQL database. And so what we'll do is go show databases, and you can save these in your notes just pretty much just like this. And then we'll use MySQL, or we'll use whatever database seems interesting. And then we can show tables. Forgot my semicolon there. So if you hit this arrow, it's because you need a semicolon to close off your SQL query. And then you can look through here and you can go through all these files and see what looks interesting to you. This looks interesting, the databases, but we're going to go into the users probably 90% of the time or more. You're going to want to go into the users, and so you can actually come in here and we'll just select all, and some of this should look familiar from the SQL injection. So select all from user. And this actually gives us a very non-pretty version of the user and the password. There's another way to do this. We can go select, and then we'll go user, because remember we're looking for the user inside the table, which we actually have MySQL here. So we're going to be inside this user. So we're going to go select user, and then inside the user, I'll show you actually. It looks like this. Describe the user. So inside the user column, we want to find the user and the password. So what we're going to end up typing in is select the user and the password, and it's going to be from the table user. And then when we close that off and we hit enter, it makes it look a whole lot prettier. So sometimes you'll come in here and you'll have users and there'll be plain text passwords, but most of the time you're going to have something like this, and you're going to have to try and crack this password. But this is helpful. You're going to need to know it. You're going to come across it in the future. So remember that you can just type it in this way and you can have the very non-pretty version, or you can go about it and grab the passwords this way. I'd go ahead and save those SQL commands because you're going to need them in the future, unless you know SQL really well, or you are up for the challenge of Googling in the future, or I guess you don't have to save them and you can just refer to this video. Either way, you're going to need to know that MySQL is something you need to look through in the future, and it's something you should always be ready to check. And I'll see you in the next video. Alright, in this video we're going to be going over some password hunting within Linux. This is something that some of the tools will cover for us, but it's always best to try and do it manually, especially if you get stuck at a dead end. And what we are going to do here is where it payloads all the things. What you'll do is you'll just come over here and you can copy these and you can just paste them straight into the box that you have a shell on, and you'll go ahead and paste it in, hit enter, and see if any files come back that look interesting. And we can go ahead, like some of these I'm pretty sure are actually available on this specific box. So what you'll do is you'll come over here, you just hit enter, and there they are, and you can actually, since these are just files, you can copy these and you can look and see what's inside of them. We are going to continue with this. These passwords, password hunting isn't the only thing you want to hunt for. This right here, these SSH keys, is definitely something that you need to be aware of. You will come across these in the future, but sometimes you're going to go like that, you'll paste it in and nothing's going to come back, and it's because the key is not actually named ID RSA. Most often that's what it's going to be called, but in this specific case it is actually called root underscore key. Yep, and there it is. And so we can actually go into where this file is, and we can cd /.ssh, and then the file should be right here. And what we'll do is we'll go chmod and then we type in root key, and boy, I'm really struggling. Chmod, and then we need 600 so that we can use this key. And it says changing permissions of the key is not permitted. And we can go ahead and see if this will actually work anyway. We can go SSH-I root key, and then we'll go root at, and then we put in whatever IP address we're trying to SSH to. And in this case, it's 182.85. And we can go ahead and hit enter, and it says, do you want to fingerprint the box? We say yes, and we are root. Most of the time, you are going to have to chmod 600 this. I'm not sure why that didn't work in this case, but that is how you would go about finding an ID RSA key and SSHing into the box. And you'll also want to remember and put in your notes or in your workflow password hunting. So with that, I will see you in the next video. Okay, we are going to be talking about SUIDs, or the SETUID. These are going to be something you're going to see, but they're not as straightforward as you might hope. Every single SUID I have ever come across has taken me more time than I think it should, because when you think about it and you go to GTFO bins, they look really easy, but every single time, every payload I've ever had to deal with has required some kind of modification or wasn't as straightforward as I had hoped. So these are something you're going to see in the future. So if you come over to payloads, all the things, the SUID is right here, and it tells us it stands for set user ID. So the way we find these, linps and linenum both will find these, but you can also just come in here and you can copy, you can paste, and you just press enter, and it will pull them down for us. So when you do this, it's going to look like this is what we're looking for, this S right here. We're looking for the sticky bit, and the sticky bit will be right here, and this is for the root user. So the root user has read-write access, and then the S is enabled. So when we see something like a chmod 777 and then file here, what's happening is they're changing this to read, write, execute all the way across for the root user, the group users, and the local user. So it would be a 7 here. This would be 4 bits. So if you saw something like this, 477, it would be, or a 444. What you'd be enabling is the read access. And then this would be the 2 bits, which is the write access. And you would see something like a 6. So like when we see the chmod 600, and then when you see all 7s, it would be read, write, execute all the way across. And so this is what we're looking for right here, this S. And then if it was a GUID, this would be a G, and this would be a T. But really what we're looking for right now is just the SUID. So we're looking for this one right here for this sticky bit. And what we'll do when you come across these, the way you enumerate these, linps is the best because it's going to just highlight it. It'll just highlight if one is vulnerable, but you might have to come across manual enumeration at some point, and linps isn't going to find it. So what you do when you enumerate these is eventually you'll get used to just seeing them and you'll know what's there. But you come over to GTFO bins, you will go to SUID, you will click on this, and then what you do is you just look for, you can go straight down and you can go CHSH, and you can come down here and you can just look for CHSH, and then you can go, okay, that's not in here. We can look for sudo. I know sudo, plain sudo is not in here. I think sudo might be in here with an extension. Nope, see? So I still have to come here and look through these, and you will probably too. So we can go through and you can look for these, and then when you find one and you click on it, it will tell you how to carry out the execution for getting the file you need or to get root access. that is the SUID. We're going to go ahead and jump into a box that has an SUID in it. And you can go ahead and try and do the foothold on your own, and we can work on the privilege escalation together, or you can just follow along through the whole thing. I will see you in the next video. Okay, we are back, and we're going to be doing a box from Hack2Box. It is called Bank, and so you can go ahead and connect to Hack2Box and launch the box, and so you can connect and you can begin with your nmap scan. But before we do, I want to challenge you guys to go ahead and try this box on your own. We've covered everything necessary to gain a foothold, and I just want to give you a tip. It's going to be a little more enumeration than what you might think when you first try to do your enumeration on this web server here. But before you go ahead and begin this box, there's one thing that I want to cover. Sometimes when you're doing Hack2Box machines, because we're working in a virtual environment, they label their web servers, not always, but sometimes with a .htb. Normally, if you're out in the real world, you're going to come across .com, .net, .org, .gov, things like that. But because they have linked their web server to .htb, we're going to have to add that to our Etsy host file. And just a heads up, sometimes when you come out and you do boxes on your own and you're trying to work through Hack2Box on your own, when you come to a web page and you type in the IP address, normally when you need to add it to your Etsy host file is when it doesn't render. So usually it won't render anything. In this case, it's a little more tricky because the page actually does render. But what we'll have to do to go through and do this, we'll type in sudo gedit Etsy hosts, and you'll hit enter right here. And so we'll enter this, and we can type in our password. Okay, and here we are. And what you'll do is you'll type in 10.10.10.29 bank.htb, and you will save this. One thing to remember is when we have port 53 open is to go ahead and enumerate it. We actually did not cover the way to enumerate it that works on this box because we used, I believe, NS lookup and DNS recon. But what actually works on this box is a dig AXRF and then bank.htb, and then we enter at 10.10.10.29. And so when you run this, I'll actually go ahead and run it. To remember to add this into your notes. It's another way to enumerate port 53 and look for additional pages for us to add to our Etsy host file in this case, or to go out and look at. So if you wanted to be really thorough in your editing your Etsy host, you would go in and you would add bank.htb, chris.bank.htb, and you would even add this ns.bank.htb, and you would just go through and add all of these. In this case, bank.htb will get us everything we need. But I thought I'd go ahead and show this to you so that you would be ready in the future and you wouldn't be caught off guard when you see it. So I want to go ahead and give you the challenge to try and solve this box on your own. We've covered the privilege escalation, we've covered the foothold already in this course, so I'll go ahead, and if you want, you can pause the video now and give this a try, or you can continue along with the video and do follow along. So we'll go ahead and we'll go bank.htb, and this brings us to a web page. And what you can do here is you can go ahead and try SQL injection. You can launch SQL map, which is something you can't use. Really, you shouldn't use it in a real world pen test. You definitely cannot use it on a bug bounty, and you're not allowed to use it in a lot of certifications. So we're not going to mess with it at this point. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start our GoBuster. And because we see this .php, what we're going to do is we're going to go with our GoBuster. And so we'll come over here, we'll just open up a new tab. We'll type GoBuster dash dir dash. We don't do a dash dir, we go dir dash u e slash slash, and we're going to type in bank.htb. Rather than the IP address, we're going to go with our word list. And this is where I think it gets a little tricky because you will have to use a different word list than what we've been using. You can go out and grab seclist. Word list, that's one I usually use when I'm trying to find directories. But in this case, I have one that I've actually modified. So we'll go ahead and go, I think it's going to be home, and then Kali, desktop, it's in tools, and I called it just wordlist.txt. So we'll go ahead and run that, and it's going to start pulling down directories for us and pages for us to go ahead and look at right away. We can go try and see what these render. Let's go ahead and see where this takes us. And we get this login page, which doesn't really look like it's going to do us any good. This is also at the bank login. Let's go ahead and delete this and see if we get anything different. And we hit this forbidden page. One thing I have not tried, but I am curious now that we see this forbidden page, is to run this and to intercept this forward, put in a 200, okay, and see what happens. Okay, still tells us the same thing. So we'll come in here, we'll come back, and this right here looks interesting. So we'll go ahead and check this out. Bank transfer, that sounds like something you don't want someone to be able to see. That does not work. So what we'll do is maybe we do need to go over here and edit our Etsy host file. I thought we could get away without adding these in, so we'll go ahead and add this, paste, and we can add this. Paste, and we'll go ahead and add this one, and we'll paste, and we'll save that, and we will try and come back here to this, and we will type in slash balance transfer. Okay, so we do need those in there. Now it brings us to this page with all of these files. And so what we can do is, I have come to pages before similar to this, not quite this extensive, but pretty extensive. And I went through and looked at every single one of these before I was able to find the vulnerability. But in our case, when we look at this, we can just see these are all pretty similar in size. And so they're going to be, what I would do is I would just look at one that's got a 583, a 584, and a 585, because it's probably going to be pretty much all the exact same files. And if you do look at one of those, it just turns out to be something that's encrypted. And here's one that is different. And so what we'll do is we'll go ahead and click on this. We will click Save File, and it will save to our downloads. So what we can do is CD over to our downloads, and then we'll cat this file out and see what is inside of it. And what we end up with is an email and a password. So remember that login page that we started at? We can try that. SSH is also open, and whenever I find credentials, that's probably where I'm going to go first, is I'm going to try and SSH into the box, and that is not going to work. So then we'll go back to our login page, and what we will do is just copy this, paste it in. We will copy this, and we will paste it in. We will submit. We will not save. So when we come to a web page, the first thing we automatically do is we start clicking around. That doesn't do us any good. And you click to see if you can do anything. This would be terrible if you found this in real life for whoever you're testing. And then we come over to support, and then we're brought to this page, and it has a file upload. And whenever you see file upload, you can automatically just start trying to upload different files. You can try documents, you can try PNGs. For us, we would want to try PHP, especially since it's running PHP, to see if we can get a reverse shell. So what we'll do is we can come in here, we can upload a file. So we can go ahead and try this, and we will want to turn on our interceptor, and we will type in test, We'll choose the file. We'll go ahead and submit. We go forward. Oh, I just forwarded past it. Okay. It says it was a success, so that's a good thing. We can come in here and we'll just type in file this time. And we'll go file. We'll choose our file. We'll pick our GIF. We will turn intercept back on and hit submit. And we are brought to this page. We're going to send it to repeater, and we'll go ahead and send that on its way. And since we already know this works, we can send this and see the response. We can render the response. You can look over here, and it says it was a success. So we can come back over here. And if you look through here, we will see what it tells us. We have this comment here that actually tells us what we need to do next. So this is something you're probably not going to see in real life, but it's something that they've gone ahead and done on a Hack the Box. Is it says I added the file extension HTB to execute as PHP. So what happens is if we change to this, what we'd want to do if we're trying to upload a reverse shell is we would change this to PHP. But in this case, it says PHP is blocked, but we can use .htb. And so the next thing we need to do is if you just try to upload a PHP shell, and I'm telling you this just to save time, it's not going to work, but we need to trick the server into thinking that we are uploading a PHP shell. And I have a gigantic GIF here that is going to take a second for me to highlight and then delete. So I'll just bring you back once this is deleted. Okay, now that we have that all deleted, the reason we kept this right here is because it'll tell the server that we're uploading an image, and that's what we need to do in order to bypass the filter. And so you can actually just go out to Google and just type in pretty much anything .gif and then go to image and just download a GIF so that you can do this. Or you can make a file and you can just make this the beginning of the file and save it and then upload that instead of doing what I just did and deleting all of that mumbo jumbo. But we'll go ahead, since we've already deleted it and this file is already here, so we'll call this HTB.htb. So that way it will execute as PHP, and we have seen this before. We'll come up here and we're going to go tell that okay, and we're going to go web shells. We're going to grab this web shell that we have used in the past. That is not what I needed. I need this. I need this, and we're going to come over here and we are literally just going to paste that in, and then I'm going to change the name to file1 so that way we have it and we'll send it. It tells us that went through. So now what we need to do is we'll actually just refresh this page and we'll resend it. Okay. We have file 1. This is the one we used. We'll click on it. It takes us to the page. And if you remember how web shells work, we just type in $CMD for the command, which was the variable we decided to use, and then a command, who am I, and this should execute. We are www data. Since we have command execution on this box, we can go ahead and delete that. We will grab a reverse shell from a reverse shell cheat sheet. I actually tried to run a Python shell, so I typed in which Python, sent it. It says we have Python. I still could not get the Python shell to run. I also tried bash and I couldn't get that to work. So what I did is I went and I tried Python and I tried bash. I skipped PHP and I decided to go straight for netcat. So this was actually the third one that I tried. And we'll go back over here and we'll just type this in. And what I am going to do is I'm just going to leave this as 1, 2, 3, 4 because I don't really want to have to delete it. 10.14.15. If you remember how this works, we will need a netcat listener. So we'll just go netcat lvnp 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever port you decided to roll with. We will send that. And it did not hang, so something didn't work. Okay, I wasn't listening. We'll send it again. And let's check our shell. It says it connected. So if we go ID or who am I, it says we are connected to this box. So now what I like to do is I like to have a full interactive shell. So you can go ahead and type in Python, because we already checked which Python, -c. And I don't know if we've seen this before, but it just gets us this little prompt right here. So we can go import -p, don't need a dash, pty dot spawn, and then we come here /bin/bash, and then close this off. And we now have this right here. But for editing purposes later on in the video, because we're going to have to edit some files, if you just try to edit a file exactly how this is, it doesn't work. You have a mess, and it is really quite difficult. You can get around it by importing files, and I can show you guys how to do that later, but I'm going to go ahead and if you hit Command Z, actually I'll just show you. So we ls, if I try to type in GIF and I hit tab, nothing works, and it makes it really difficult to edit files inside some boxes. So we're going to go ahead and hit Command Z. We're going to type in stty raw-echo, and then we'll have this little colon here, and then the FG just brings us back into the box. So you can hit enter, and then you have to hit enter again. And now if we type in GIF and we hit tab, it works, and it also makes it so we can edit files. So I want you to go ahead and see if you can figure out the privilege escalation on this video on your own. So go ahead and see if you can pull over linpeas and run it and find the vulnerability. Okay, how did that go? I'm gonna go ahead and cancel this. We're gonna go ahead and CD over to desktop tools. We're going to need a simple server. And now we have this launched. We can grab linpeas onto our box. So we can go ahead and go wget, and then we can type in our IP address. And then we're going to type in linpeas.sh. And that should grab. We can bash linpeas, and we'll run that. All right, instead of reading through this linpeas file here, you're going to see that this box is actually vulnerable to several different vulnerabilities that we have in fact covered. So you can go ahead and do those on your own, but we are just coming out of the SUID privilege escalation, and I want to cover that. So this doesn't actually pick up on the SUID vulnerability. And so what we're going to have to do is we're going to come all the way down here to our command prompt. We're going to go to our payloads, all the things. We're going to copy this and paste this in. The reason I want to cover this is because I told you that these are not always that obvious. So linpeas doesn't even pick it up because it doesn't recognize this. And also we are going to see one that isn't how you would cover it here in the GTFO bins. So this one is a little bit different than what we have seen already. And honestly, every SUID I have come across is not common. Like, they're all different and they all require some Googling. And so when I originally did this with the SUID, is I copied this and I typed in cat and then I pasted it in, and we can go ahead and do that. It just gives us back a bunch of unlegible stuff. And so I didn't know exactly what this was doing. So I ended up coming in here and I just tried to execute this file. And if you look and we go, who am I? We are now root. And so SUIDs are a bit tricky. They're not always straightforward. And this one is no exception. It is not how you would expect it to be. And so that is the SUID vulnerability in this box. You can change the password to the etc passwd file, and I would challenge you to go ahead and do that. It is a little tricky on this box, so it may take a few tries. And with that, I will see you in the next video. All right, we are going to go ahead and shoot the etc passwd video. I decided to go ahead and make this video because I was kind of having a little bit of trouble with it myself, getting it to actually load. So I wanted to walk you through exactly how to go ahead and get that done. And also, while we're here, if you remember, the way we uploaded this file was we went ahead and put something in here, put something in here. we chose a file, and then we did a GIF, and then we just saved those first few characters and then put in our web shell right here. So I actually decided to go ahead and show you another way to do this. You can actually, is way faster too. You can make your own file just like this. We'll go ahead and we'll cat this out. We just need the GIF 87A and then the web shell. And we just saved it as HTB, so that way it would execute the PHP code. If you remember the note we found inside the box, a little clue. And now we don't have to mess with repeater. We don't have to put this inside burp. We don't have to delete those characters. We can just upload this straight away. So we can just choose this file and upload it and submit, and it goes right through. And we can come over here and we can type in cmd who am I, and we get www data. So we can go ahead and delete this and upload our netcat shell for this. And I guess we'll just delete all that. Go 10, 14, 15, or we'll just make it 1, 2, 3. And then we need to set up our netcat listener so that we can get a callback on our box here. We'll go ahead and hit enter. Not sure what went wrong. Just try it again. 10, 10, 14, 15. Let's go ahead and send that. That time it looks like it's hanging. If you remember, we need to type in python-c import pty.spawn and whoops. We'll need bin bash and then close all this out. Looks good. And now if you remember, we need to come over here and we hit Command Z to put that in the background. And then we type in stty raw -echo and then the FG, and then we'll hit enter, and then we'll hit enter again. And that's very important to getting this to work, because without that, I really was struggling to edit the etc passwd file. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll cat the etc passwd. We are going to copy all of this so that way we have it, just so that way we are used to having this in best practice, just in case we screw it up, we have it here. And we can save it right here. We'll go gedit and we can type in, we'll just save it as passwd, paste that in there. And we're going to go ahead and copy this root, and we're going to make a new one, hit enter. And if you remember, we need something to go right there, our new password. So we'll come back over here. We type in open SSL, passwd, password is pass, hit enter. It gives us a new password. We copy it. We replace it with this X. We're going to copy this. Copy. Okay, now here comes the tricky part. We're going to go ahead and do vim, and we're going to go etc passwd, hit enter, and we're going to go ahead and, because I don't really care to mess this up too much because it's just a regular practice box, we can come up here, we can hit enter. We're going to paste in our new our new user, and you can see nothing showed up here except for this T. So what actually ends up happening is we need to hit escape in order to close out, and then we put our colon in, and then we go W exclamation point to overwrite it, and now it's overwritten. But the problem is I'm not able to get out of here, so we have to just go ahead and close that, and we have to make a new tab. We have to set up a new netcat listener and reconnect. And actually, I think this is over here. I'm just going to copy this so I don't have to retype it in. Paste, enter, and now we should be able to cat the etc passwd. Here's our new user. It just saved as T because root didn't get all the way in there. So we can just switch users to T, and then we'll type in the password that we made, and we are now root. So that is a kind of difficult way to get the Etsy passwd file overwritten. For some reason, no matter what I did, I was unable to write that the correct way into the passwd file, and I had to come over and make my own, copy it, paste it in, and it always deleted the first few characters of root. And this time we luckily had just the T left over. But that is one way to go ahead and overwrite the Etsy passwd file. So I hope you were able to get this on your own. If not, you can go ahead and try it again, because you're surely going to see this again in the future.